What's up guys, it's Jake here from Chief Life Gaming. Today another tutorial video. We're branching out of our Dark Imperium tutorial series with another one today. This is a special effect, something that is a finishing touch to your minis. We're going to look at the sort of green glow that you see glowing on all over this mini. We've got it on the axe there. The blight grenades on the back of him hanging all over the base. This works great for eyes if you want to do sort of a green eye effect or anything that you want to give a nice eerie green glow. It works really well for anything in the Dark Imperium set. The pestilence or the plague glow is what I like to think of it. So I hope you guys enjoy it. This is a pretty easy effect, but it does look really cool. And it's one of those things that really push your minis to sort of the next level of detail and the next level of interest. So, without further ado, let's dive right into it. Okay guys, so before we dive into how to do this technique, I want to talk about setting the groundwork for it. So, I like to finish the area that I want to apply this effect to completely before I do it. It's sort of a last step sort of thing. So make sure that you've painted all the surrounding area and the mini that you want to apply this to completely before you start doing this technique. Remember, it's kind of a last step sort of thing. So in this video, we're going to use this axe on the Lord of Contagion as an example for applying these steps. As you can see, I have painted it to the level that I want. It's completely finished other than this glow effect. We've got just a basic metallic scheme here. A little bit of dry brushing to pick out the edges of the axe as you look down towards the blade portion. It's important to have your highlights a little bit brighter than you might normally. We're going to be setting up for a lot of glazing, so having a very bright highlight before you apply this technique allows that to sort of bleed through our glaze and give us a nice level of depth later on. So keep that in mind, and let's take a look at these steps. So the first step to this technique is applying a glaze. I've used a base of Game Ink Black Green. This is a Vallejo color. I'm a big fan of this Game Ink range. What I've done is thinned it out, I'd say about 50-50 just with water. This allows me to do a little bit of wet blending. So the basic technique for this, guys, you start where you want it most, the strongest green. So in this example, we're starting at the tip or the edge of this axe. Lay down your thinned out glaze, and then get all of the paint off your brush, rinse it out in your cup, get water only on it, and then pull it from the edge down into the rest of the axe. It's a simple wet blending technique, but because we're using this glaze, this already very thin paint, it's going to make it really easy to get a nice subtle sort of creep towards that full green. Now you can see here that it is quite subtle, and as I mentioned earlier, you're seeing the highlights from the axe bleed through and already make it look pretty cool, and that's just with one real quick blend. Now remember, you have to work quickly when you're doing wet blending. You can't leave that green on there too long or it's going to dry. You're going to get coffee stains and all kinds of nonsense, so make sure to just kind of move along fast, do little areas at a time, and make sure to let it dry completely before you move on to any other steps. I usually give it like 15 to 20 minutes in front of a fan. Make sure it's nice and dry. So our next step is to build on that transition, that fade or gradient on the axe blade here. So we're going to do another layer with the same mix of our black green here, feathering it out nice and smooth with that wet blend technique. Depending on how thin your ink or your glaze is that you've made, you may want to do more coats. It's more of a feel, more of a preference than a sort of a recipe. So just keep building up that glaze, that fade. I'm pretty confident saying that the more layers you do, the better it's going to look. For the most part, just keep your glaze thin, layer it up, And when you're happy with how it looks, move on to the next step. Now remember, it does look different when it dries than when it's wet. So if you're looking at it when it's wet, try to not make any adjustments based on that. Let it dry and then take a look and go from there. For our last step of this technique, we're going to pick up P3 Necrotite Green. This is a super bright, almost fluorescent sort of green color. I really prefer it for this effect. We're going to do edge highlighting here, some basic edge highlighting technique. Keep it steady. Don't let your lines get too thick or you're really going to wash out your gradient that you just built up and it's not going to look right. If you're not confident with your edge highlights, move down to a smaller brush and just build it up slower. Really, it's the tip of the brush that matters. So if you're really confident, you can use your big old size 2 or whatever that you like and just keep it slow, keep it steady, and get those nice thin lines down. So additionally, once you've laid this down, you can come back in with your glaze mix, your dark green, and apply that over this edge highlight to give yourself some more gradient, some more interest, break up the green a little bit more, and really focus down that intensity to the edges and corners of the edge of the axe where you want it to be really bright, and kind of again keep feathering in that dark green to give yourself some more interest. I did not do that in this example because I wanted to keep it simple for this tutorial and show you guys that you can get a nice effect with just a few minimal steps. So that's where I stopped, but I would encourage you guys to play around with different levels and different sort of layering of this Necrotite Green coming back over to your glaze, and just keep building on those layers. So as we close out the video, guys, I want to show you some pictures to give you ideas of where you can use this technique in other areas on models throughout the Dark Imperium boxed set. This is a great effect for adding sort of a nice little flare to any Death Guard, Nurgle, Chaos Space Marine models. It works in a lot of different areas of models: eyes, blight grenades, little cracks and gaps in armor plates. Anywhere that you can sort of look at and think, man, there needs to be a little bit more interest or a little bit more flash to this area of the model, try the effect out and see how it works for you. So I want to thank you guys for watching. Consider subscribing if you want to see more tutorials like this. If you want to see what I'm doing on a day-to-day basis, subscribe to me on social media. I'm really active there. Over on Instagram, I try to post one picture a day of what I'm working on as my bench fills up. I am a full-time commission painter, so I do put a lot of models through my workbench, and I love to interact with you guys, not only on YouTube here, but over on my other social media. I want to say thank you to Matthew, a new patron over here on Patreon. Thank you very much for your support, my friend. I do appreciate it. If you guys want to see more tutorials and allow me to spend more time making tutorial content, consider becoming a patron, linked down in the description below. Allows me to buy coffee to keep painting late into the night, new paints, new brushes, all kinds of new stuff, and I really do appreciate it. So thank you guys very much. More tutorials coming soon. I will see you then. I hope you have a great day. Bye now.